someone saying, what if I fall? And the response being, well, what if you fly? We're constantly trying to reduce the time between idea and execution. Collateral damage of that, break a lot of things, but it's fine. Money comes and goes, qadr of Allah. I've seen individuals have money and the next day not have money. It's just a podcast to most people, but for me, it's an entire mission. Execute fast. We have a bare minimum of quality. 99% of the people will look at that quality and be like, whoa, that is sick. All these Islamic ethics and morals, if we execute everything, business, relationships, how we handle our money, with those principles, we can only win.
Muslim content creation is still a long, long way behind. How do we bridge that gap?
Anything that bleeds eventually dies, right? I saw it bleeding for far too long.
Faisal, assalamu alaikum.
Zaid, wa alaikum salam.
It's a pleasure to have you on.
The honor is all mine. I'm really excited, man.
You know what? I wanted to do this for a long time to you. Let's start.
Okay, nice.
Pick one.
Now you're talking my language.
I can't remember what these are. But
all right, I'm going to go here. The question says, what motivates you to get out of bed every morning?
that's a good one.
That is a really good one. Okay, so we were speaking off air about your guys' mission, right, with Muslim Pound, which I love. I love the concept of it, and I think that it's good that someone's being proactive with it. For me, it is our mission. So with Freshly Grounded, I'm really all in on our mission, and I'm all in on the product, and I'm all in on the audience, and it drives me all the time, and I'm constantly thinking about Freshly Grounded, which sounds weird because it's just a podcast. To most people, they probably look at it just like a YouTube channel or podcast. But for me, it's an entire mission that has internal motivations and external motivations. So I think that motivates me. And then outside of that, my kids, man. Yeah, sorry, I keep looking over there because your producers. Feel like we're in a three-way conversation, so I apologize. My kids, of course. I think any parent would say that, right? It would be weird if a parent didn't think about their kids every second of the day. So that's a big part.
Your dad content's actually super funny, especially when they find their Eid presents and
I
stuff.
appreciate that. Yeah. No, my kids are complete character, man. So I'm a dad of 3 boys, which I think is fairly unique. At least in my experience with the people around me, they have a mix of children, but for me it's just all boys. And it is just, my house is just, if you was just to spend a day in my house as a fly on the wall, it's hilarious, man. I walk into the house after work and one of the kids will be doing a 360 flip over the sofa, and the other one's it's just nuts. It's absolutely nuts, and it's the best thing in the world.
Are you one of them parents who just lets them get on with it?
No, I'm quite strict. I'm the strict parent. Yeah, I'm very strict. Yeah. I'm the disciplinarian. My wife is very lombardic. She's really good with them, man. She's amazing. But we balance each other out quite well. Yeah.
Okay. And your mission with Freshly Grounded was or still is to create a safe space in media for Muslims, right?
That's right. Yeah. I like to use the word content over media, because I think first of all, content is becoming so big. More and more people are creating content. There's more and more content creators. Content is really the self, an individual creating, videos, images, whatever, for the consumption of, their audience. I feel like media is much larger. Media is and there's so many great people doing it, but media is really talking about geopolitical issues. Media is, I think, tackling things on a larger scale. In my head anyway, obviously this is not the dictionary definitions. And I think our mission is in the content world. So yeah.
Okay, so you paused Freshly Grounded to pursue an amazing career with Tartil and do some amazing work, and the app I've used as well is brilliant. Is that something you regret now?
Oh, not one bit. I learned so much at Tartil. It was an amazing 3 years. And I love the guys at Tartil. I love the product. I was a user of the product. I am still a user of the product. It was so amazing to be at the forefront of being able to control how that product is created, consumed, marketed. Even though I was the head of marketing there, the team at Tartil is so pro everybody having an opinion on the product that you feel you're actually heard, and you're hey, this is my experience of the product. And it would be very common to say, hey, this is my experience, and actually then the product team starts building that out because of what your opinion was. So I know you will never hear me say bad word about Tartil or my experience there. don't regret it one bit. Best thing ever. But it was just, you know, a good time for me. You know, Freshly Grounded's mission has always been very important to me, and I feel like it's authentic to me. You know, I've got videos of me at 4 years old, 5 years old, trying to entertain and dance around my house for like, the whole family. And then, you know, growing up, I was, you know, in like various different auditions. I was a theatre kid, and so that's just authentic to me. And so, as much as I love Tartil, I felt Freshly Grounded bleeding because my Tartil was growing along Barakah at rapid speed. We went from, at my time there, we went from 4 million users to 11 million users. And so with that comes a lot of growth even internally in the team. And being head of a department means that also I'm having to be present in a lot of those kind of discussions, or, you know, my team is getting bigger. And I was able to give less and less time to Freshly Grounded. And so I thought, look, I need to be able to do that now. And so it was a difficult and scary decision because you're really working as a head of department in what I believe is going to be probably the leading Muslim company, you know, in the next generation to come, because these guys are not using AI wrappers, which again, there's nothing at all wrong with that. These guys are building at the forefront, incredible individuals. The technology is insane. They've got an incredible team, and I really think it's going to be like, it already is probably the fastest growing tech company in the Muslim world, in the Western Muslim world, and it's going to. I just think it's like, if you're going to bet on a horse, Tartil is a horse to bet on. So for me to leave a head of department role being like non-technical employee number one is like the biggest risk. But I think that shows my dedication to my craft in Freshly Grounded and content and stuff.
You know, whoever I've showed that 30 lap to, they're like, wow, this is amazing. And I think I first started using it properly about 2 years ago in Ramadan.
Okay.
And then I went to Tarawih that day and I showed the boys, I said, watch. Imam got a mistake and it shows up.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is like incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. It's really cool.
How involved were you in the actual building of the product, or were you more just marketing lead?
Yeah, so my role was head of marketing, so not necessarily, I wasn't in the day-to-day building of the product. It was always also kind of getting the word out there, getting the growth out there. But like I said, because it was a tight-knit team. I was the first non-technical hire, I believe. And so I must have been employee number 5 or 6. And so because of the tight-knit team, there was a lot of overlap of like, you know, a lot of the product, there was obviously a lot of private product discussions, but there was also a lot of team discussions where really you could just think outside the box and build together. But no, like for the most part, I was just focused on marketing.
So one of the obviously reasons you said was because you spent a lot of time with Tartil, and one thing you need to be successful in anything, you have to have focus.
Of course.
So did you ever think that rather than pausing Freshly Grounded, would you ever say that you would rather have continued with Freshly Grounded to keep it going on an upward trajectory? Or is it more just like, it is what it is?
Okay, so Freshly Grounded being paused is a bit of a misconception because we never actually paused. We always carried on going. I think like the amount of times we missed a weekly episode in 8 years is, I could probably count on one hand. So we've never paused Freshly Grounded. But the fact that you, for example, think that it got paused is a perfect example of me, of my, I suppose, what's the word I'm looking for? Observation. I lose words, like the easiest words as soon as you're on mic. A perfect example of my observation that Freshly Grounded is bleeding. The fact that people don't know we're putting out episodes anymore, the fact that views were tanking, despite us putting out quality episodes, was a perfect example of the fact that I needed to put attention back onto it. So yeah, like that's why I think I kind of made the right decision in that regard.
So right now you've got a good team around you.
Yes.
And you're putting out episodes every few days now?
We're putting out some kind of content like pretty much daily in some capacity, yeah, but episodes are still weekly.
Episodes are still weekly. The podcast episodes are still weekly, but there's other, like, you have
there's a
Suleiman
bunch of content, man. Yeah, we've got vlogs, we've got like we've got a separate episode, a separate show called Studio B, which is available for our premium subscribers, which is Suleiman and Johan, these two young guys from their journeys, like they're like just grown up in London, and they have like incredible stories. Johan is a revert, and Suleiman is like, you know, Acton, Vale, like born and brought up, like, so he's just incredible stories that they share together and have a laugh, and it's incredible. And then we've got, you know, different kind of pieces of content going out. Yeah.
So where would you say you want yourself to be in like a year, 2 years? Because I think everyone I speak to in content, they say Freshly Grounded is the pioneers.
I really appreciate that, man. That honestly means a lot.
Because even
to
right now,
us.
Farhan was talking Freshly Grounded here. And when I told my wife, bringing on Freshly Grounded, she's like, sick.
Yeah, that means a lot.
I kept it on the low. I haven't told no one, just in case no one knows her. But everyone's like, yeah, Freshly Grounded is the pinnacle. They're the pioneers. You guys are the first content creators. And I think you gave it insight, because I was born and bred in East London. It's like being on videos haram. And you guys kind of gave everyone that insight in terms of, no, if you build good Muslim halal content, there's nothing wrong with it. And in fact, you'd rather watch Faisal from Freshly Grounded than go to a random comedy show where people are swearing or whatever it is.
Yeah, so first of all, you've just given me the perfect alley-oop to dunk my promotion of our live event, which is Sunday the 10th of August. So exactly
Episode 400.
Episode 400, yeah. So if you're in London, or if you're not in London, come down. It's in the Shaw Theatre, and you can get your tickets at fg.live. Okay, that's my plug done. But exactly that. Like, if you strip everything away from Freshly Grounded, like, we could talk about content, we could talk about videos, and all of that kind of stuff. But really, these are all vehicles, right? And for me, that's my vehicle, because it seems to be what's most authentically me. It's what I enjoy doing. If that vehicle for me was, maths, then I would pursue this same thing in that or whatever. But if you strip all of the vehicles away, really the crux of what my mission is to say that you can compete with and create worldwide, global, like top quality content or product without compromising your morals, right? And what are those morals? Those morals are us as Muslims, and we know that Islam is a haqq. And if Islam is a haqq, it covers all bases. There's nothing that Islam hasn't mentioned. If the Prophet ﷺ even taught us how to answer the call of nature, akramakumullah, then then imagine what has been covered: business, content, everything, right? So if that's the case, and Islam has covered everything, then and it's the truth, then we need to use that as our anchor and understand, okay, like, what is it that those like morals and ethics are that we need to use, right? And my belief and your belief and everybody here's belief and everybody listening to this belief is that if we stick to those rules and guidelines, then that's going to be the most our highest chance of success, even if that's against what we are taught from a dunya sense, right? And it's like the business of barakah, right? Like, it's like if you have the barakah of Allah because you are choosing to make decisions that please Allah, then even if it feels like the wrong decision, from a logical perspective, it will be the right decision. You have like full, I don't know what languages people like. I was brought up in Punjabi, so we just say tasalli, right? Like, you have full. There's some words that I can just not say in the English language. I think it's reassurance, right? But it's like I'm speaking English and I just have to say a Punjabi word. But you have full tasalli to say that, like, I'm good because this is the way that Allah wants me to like do this thing. And so those principles, I think there's like 4 or 5 core ones. Honesty is one of them. We know that the Prophet ﷺ forbade lying even when joking. And that's a big thing, bro. Yeah. Like, Muslim, non-Muslim, like, you're chilling with a group of lads, you're going to be making jokes that are and there's gonna be lies in those jokes naturally, because that's kind of like how jokes work, right? But outside of joking, imagine like then how important honesty is in all forms of business and content, right? Another one is like, if you're still like on the concept of joking, like mocking, right? Mocking your brother is just never, we don't have patience for it. We don't have patience for it on the podcast. I don't have patience for it in my group of friends. So yeah, that probably sounds like a really boring group of friends, but it's not. It's a really safe space. Like, you'll never, if I'm, with my group of friends or in the Freshly Grounded office or anywhere, you'll never hear us making jokes at the expense of each other, even if you feel like you can hack it, and you kind of can, because, growing up in London, you kind of have to, on the school playground and stuff. You're kind of your skin does get thick, but it doesn't matter. It's not for us. We don't do that. And then there's other concepts like excellence, which I think helps us get to that mainstream, which is ihsan. And the importance of like thinking long term, not thinking of short term gains, but thinking of long term value. Which I think like we can actually draw stories from the dunya as well. To say like, as proof, I often tell the story of Kodak, which I think is like a really cool story about like short-term gains versus like your your actual authentic mission. Kodak's authentic mission is to be innovative and be the first in, the world of, cameras and the like. And so they came, I think, like in 1975, they came across this like crossroads where they had invented the digital camera, but they made so much money off film cameras. I'm sure you'll remember, like, when we were little, taking pictures and then like taking the film out of the camera, going to the shop, waiting 2 or 3 days, and then getting the. They made so much money off the ink, the cameras, all of that stuff, that this digital camera that they had invented would mean a lot of loss in profits for them, and so they put it on the shelf for decades, bro. And then inevitably, digital cameras took off without Kodak, and Kodak ended up bankrupt, I think, in like 2012. And that's a perfect example of, that's your core mission, your core belief. But because you see a short-term win here, you're going to choose a short-term win. And so like my mission really is like all these Islamic ethics and morals, if we like execute everything, business, relationships, how we handle our money, with those principles, we can only win.
So this obviously mission is very dear to you and is very close to you, and it's something you've been working on for nearly 10 years?
Yeah.
At what point did you decide, let me make this into something full-time now? And what was it within you that made you decide, like, I have to do it?
It was two things. It was one, the belief that I have in this mission. And then two, the fact that I understand that it requires focus. And if something requires focus, then you really need to give it all of your time. And I think like that, you'll believe this, you're an entrepreneur and a businessman, so I think you'll resonate with me on that. You can't do some of these things part-time. You can't give it your leftover time. Our teachers speak about that with Quran. You can't give Quran your spare time. It has to have your main time. And so I think likewise, if you do have like a big mission, eventually, in order to do it, you have to have an honest conversation with yourself and say, I need to give this the best of me if I really believe in it. And I think this will have an impact on the ummah and my mission. Then I have to give it my proper time. So I think it was that, really.
And then what was it that you decided that, now's the right time to do it? Because it could have been any time. That time could have come in 2 years. It could have come 2 years ago. So what was it about now?
I think it was just the fact, like I said earlier, who is it? I think in Naval, who said on a podcast that if anything that bleeds eventually dies, right? Mm-hmm. And so I saw Freshly Grounded bleeding, and I saw it bleeding for far too long. And what I mean by that was, we were like just stringing episodes along just because one of my, I was saying there's a few core principles. Like honestly, one of those core principles to me is consistency. Allah loves deeds that are consistent, even if they are small. And so we were stringing it together, but really for the sake of consistency at this point. Like, shabby episodes, last minute, bad quality, and so it was bleeding from the sense there was no growth, but I had like this like huge idea and mission and things that I wanted to accomplish with it. And so it was the bleeding of Freshly Grounded that made me say, okay, now's the time. Like, it's bled for far too long. Like, if I leave it now, there's a very real scenario where it just goes. And that would be, I think, sad for me. So,
and your episode 400.
Yes.
I'll do a plug now.
Thank you.
Where's the tickets from? FG.live.
FG.live, yeah.
What made you do a live event? I know you love your live events.
I love live events.
I can't do live events.
Really? Okay, so like many people probably listen to podcasts, I don't know your particular journey, but I'm sure like, you can resonate with it. I started like kind of like realizing the importance of religion late in my life. And so I was 2021. And so then all of a sudden I started attending more Muslim events and consuming Muslim content. And at the time, I felt like there was something missing, like a level of excellence and finesse. I think that's no longer true, to be honest. Or at least like a lot of people have made a big impact now on like just like having like really beautiful businesses and companies, and just branding and stuff just is getting better. But at the time, 10 years ago, it wasn't. And so a Muslim event would be, wedding halls, sticky floors, no design. It was like what the default of what the venue gives you as a stage, the default of what the venue gives you as chairs and tables. And then you get these speakers and they come on. And I was like, man, like I love the live experience, whether it's sport or, it could be what people experience when they go to the theater and stuff like that. But, you become very limited with what you can consume, right? And rightly so, as a Muslim, as a practicing Muslim. So I was like, man, like coming from a theatre background, I knew what can be possible, right? Without like going out of, you know, the Islamic kind of like principles. And so why is it not that when we go to a live event that, you know, as soon as you enter, the volunteers are all like uniformed up, right? Like, you know, you go to, like, there's restaurants nowadays where you go to restaurants and it's like the staff is like in, you know, really cool hats and like white gloves and, you know, just like the experience from the minute you interact with so I was like, why can't we do that at an event? And then the stage is custom and the you know, the set looks beautiful and the experience of the person who comes in and leaves and they all these emotions go through them and you create this like escapism. And I was like, oh, I'd love to do that. And so yeah, man, our live events, that's why we went to live events. And I think we will never stop doing live events. We paused the last 3 years, but I don't think we'll ever be in a situation where we don't want to do live events. Like live events, I think that what you can create in a room with a few hundred people, the energy, undivided attention, people are not on their phones, you can create the experience. It's just like, there's nothing like it. So that's why I love live
It
events.
goes back to what you say about showmanship, right?
Yeah.
I think it was a TED talk you did in
That's right.
East London as well, right?
That's right,
Bethnal Green.
Yeah.
Actually came to that specifically because you were there.
Oh, wow. That means so much.
So I thought, let me actually, I think the other list, they were okay, but I thought Faisal's you were the main event, right? You were the last one.
I think I was second to last.
Everyone else was on the wild card.
No. They were an incredible group of
And you spoke about showmanship a lot.
Yes.
And I think that time it did get me thinking that, you know what, if you strip back everything goes back to ihsan, like doing things with excellence and doing everything good. And it does make sense that, okay, this is why you've now stripped back or tried to stop the bleeding now at freshly grounded to now do everything with excellence. You have a full-time team, you're there full-time and you can focus on it. But for other Muslim content creators who are trying to juggle both, what was the reason for your bleeding and how can other Muslim content creators stop that as well? Because there's a lot of Muslim content creators in the space now.
I think I think like Freshly Grounded was a unique case because we had been around for like about 7 years prior to me like doing that kind of switch, right? And so I knew that I had to also build a scalable business model. I think at first, if you're like a content creator, I don't know if I would think about the business model first. I think if Freshly Grounded thought about the business model first, we wouldn't have got to where we were at, right? Like you think about what is the best type of content to create. Yeah. So if you're juggling content creation with other work, I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't think I have to make the jump, otherwise I'm going to miss the train. I would concentrate on just creating the best content, and I believe that the best content is the most authentic content. So Freshly Grounded might work for me because it's authentic to me, but that doesn't mean that that same concept is gonna work for somebody else, right? But what does work for anybody is authenticity. If you just figure out what's true to me, what's my true personality, because do you know what happens when you do that? Millions of other people who also resonate with that same kind of personality type, likes, dislikes as you, they're like, oh my gosh, that's our guy. Like, I'm not everyone's cup of tea, bro. Like, we get so many comments from people who are like, oh, he mumbles, he talks too much, he's not like, the discussions are not intellectual enough, whatever. That's cool because I'm not going to be everybody's
just
cup of
saying
tea.
off camera, that's your authenticity.
But that's important because that's all you have, really, right? You can't be a different person. And so create, I think like for content creators, I would say create content that's authentic to yourself. For some people that's humor, for some people that's intellect, for some people it's debates, you know, for some people it's like being passionate about saving money, others is making money, you know, others not money at all, it's about parenting. And for me right now, parenting feels like one of the most authentic things because I'm going through it, right? And so I'll create it. And so I would, to answer your question directly, which is like, how do you juggle, you know, not doing full-time content? I would say that we're in a different world now than we were 10 years ago when I started creating content. Now we're in a world where actually you can very fast transition from creating content to earning a living from it. And so I would say start by, you know, trying to create authentic content. And then naturally, I think you'll be able to catch that moment of transitioning to it full-time.
So are you still trying to, because initially you were mainly podcasts, but are you still trying to now, because you're releasing more content, test in terms of you've got Suleiman there, and you're releasing different types of content to what you used to previously. So is there a lot of testing now for you?
There's a lot of testing right now. We're definitely in testing phase. Like we've launched essentially like a V2 of Freshly Grounded. We've got Ibrahim, we've got Suleiman, we've got Kaya who comes into host, we've got Johan who comes into host. We've got Jabran in the office who is not necessarily like camera facing, but he's a part of the team in the sense that he's in the office, right? So he's like physically there and we're all bouncing off each other. We've got Kareem who runs operations. And so what we're doing right now is actively testing, but that doesn't even necessarily mean testing just content or product. Like I said, the podcast is a vehicle for us. Content is a vehicle for us. It's the vehicle right now.
Yeah.
But it's the mission, right? It's trying to understand like what is Freshly Grounded, and ultimately what that is we have a really loyal fan base. They're not the biggest fan base in terms of numbers, but they're really potent, and I'm really happy and proud of that fan base because they've, I'm appreciative of them because they've stayed with us all that time as well.
So how do you test and then keep authentic at the same time? Because obviously it means you have to try new ideas. Yeah. Sometimes it might not be exactly what you want to do or what is the most authentic to you. So how do you kind of test?
I think like you have to be willing to I think you have to be willing to create anything and then you feel it out. Sometimes after, sometimes during. There's been many times that we've scripted and created something and just not put it out. Even recently, there's been, and because that doesn't feel authentic, but you have to be willing to try, right? It's blue sky thinking. You can't limit yourself at the idea stage, and sometimes it's about pivoting as you go. And you're like, okay, this bit doesn't feel authentic, but if we just like tweak this, maybe then we'll feel, then that like does unlock authenticity. And then also sometimes it's post, right? There's been so many times I've put out content and it's just not been authentic, bro. I mean, I've realized after the fact, or like I'm looking at it in a zoomed out way. I'm like, well, like that doesn't feel right. I might be interested in this particular thing, but it doesn't resonate as like truly authentic to my audience, or perhaps it's not truly authentic content. In fact, I'll give you a great example. At the beginning of this episode, we spoke about my role at Tartil, right?
Yeah.
It's a role I'm really proud of. I was head of marketing at this like AI company, Muslim tech. And though it wasn't purely me, in fact, it was all from Allah. And then after that, it was purely a team effort. I just happened to be in the position that I was in. But what happened when I was in that position was we grew from 4 million to 11 million users. The company performed really well. The team grew exponentially. And we saw a lot of success, especially from the marketing content side. Now, taking that experience, living 3 years, I feel that in some ways I'm in a very strong position to be able to now educate, teach people how to market, especially a Muslim business. But in general, even there was a lot of technical marketing involved. I spent and made a lot of mistakes with a lot of money that I wouldn't be able to do at Freshly Grounded, right?
Yeah.
And so all of these things I've now got in my arsenal, and I felt like, okay, like I could kind of, I could chop it up, in a room on a marketing level with a wide spectrum of individuals. I think like I'm dealing with millions of users here, and we saw success and we made a lot of mistakes. So then I put out content, some content about marketing, and even though that's authentic to me in terms of like my knowledge and experiences, it just still didn't feel authentic to me in terms of what I wanted to speak about. It didn't feel authentic to me in terms of what my audience wanted to hear, and so I pivoted. I was like, okay, like I don't want to do marketing content as much because it doesn't feel authentic. So you learn sometimes after the fact.
But with marketing content, you have to make sure it doesn't sound salesy as well.
Yeah.
In a way.
That's true.
The mistakes you said you made a lot of mistakes. Do you think if you weren't allowed to make the mistakes, you would have grown the channel as much as you would have, and then you wouldn't have learned as much as well?
Definitely. I'm a strong believer in executing fast, and you can't execute fast without breaking things. So you have to accept that that's going to be the collateral damage. And I will always stand by that. We get ideas all the time, and like when we get ideas in the office, if it's like something that we feel like is a good idea, even at surface level, I'm like, okay, like how fast can we execute it? It's like we're constantly trying to reduce the time between idea and execution, and the collateral damage of that, the side effect of that is going to be that you're going to make a lot of mistakes, you're going to break a lot of things, but it's fine. At Tartil, Anas was one of the founders. He had a saying that was like, it's not his saying, but like he was like, really deep on this mission of move fast and break things. It's fine if we break things as long as we're constantly moving fast. And so I think like that's important to me as well.
So, what was the steps that you took from moving from a podcast to then now this media agency? Like, if for example we wanted to turn Muslim Pound into a media agency, what would you tell us to do?
It's a good question. I suppose I know this goes into semantics, so I do apologize, but I suppose like agency would not be the right word, right? Because like agency, like I think like, or at least my interpretation of agency is when if you had a media agency, you're essentially like contracting work out, right? You're like taking on clients and you're like creating for them. Perhaps there's like different forms of agency, but I don't know. I've like grown up in the agency world over the last like 10 years now, so it's like agency has that like word for me, which by the way I think is an incredible concept. Like if money making is like top priority, I would always fall into it, like agency, I think. But go back to the point, how would you grow? I think I don't think I know the answer. I'll be being inauthentic by saying that I do. But I do think some of the ingredients I know, and those ingredients are, what we spoke about in authenticity, sticking to your morals and ethics that are like from Islam, and executing at a pace that people can just not keep up with. Like it's like, whoa. You're looking at it from the sidelines, you're like, I cannot believe the speed of this guy. I think that's so important. And you've done it with Muslim Pound. Well, you've done it with Muslim Pound. Because there was a time when Muslim Pound didn't exist, and then you had a guest and an episode and another episode, another episode, another episode. And there could have been times in that when you did your first episode or you told somebody the idea, people were like, oh, it's just not going to work. Or podcasts are oversaturated. And then you could have just stopped. But you got the facility, you got the studio, you ordered the sign, you did the episode, and then you did the next episode, and then the next episode, and the next episode. So you can maintain that speed. And if you're fully focused on it, you definitely can. And you do things to reduce the friction between executions. That's another thing that will help with speed. One of those things that you can do to reduce friction is hiring, which you seem to have done. Another thing that you can do to reduce friction is to use technology. And it's so cliche now, but if anybody is not utilizing AI and really trying to obsess over it, like, you are in a massive disservice to yourself. Like, we are just obsessed with AI technology at Terrestrial Grounded in every way, shape, and form.
How much does your brother help with that? Because he's obsessed with AI.
Yeah, you know what's really interesting is that he's gonna hate me saying this. Oh, he'll love me saying that. I actually used to harp onto my brother about AI. I was like, bro, like, you need to, at the time he had an agency, so I was like, you need to like shift into AI here. And he's like, I'll feel it out when it's the right time, and then. So I was like using AI and stuff from a consumer level, like a lot before him. And then when he gets into something, bro, like we just said, you cannot catch up with him. And now, bro, he's like, if you see the kind of individuals like in the US who are like at the forefront of, no code and even just AI in general in that space, dude, they're getting their advice from him, right? And they're like getting their teams to get in touch with him and asking him to be on their boards in the AI field and stuff like that, and growth. So I've got off on a tangent, but I'm just always like, so any opportunity I get to speak about my brother, it's like I love it. But he's like absolutely smashed it. But yeah, it helps because he is constantly showing me things that he's doing. But now he's become so advanced with it that I'll like try and build automations out and stuff like that. And he's like, bro, leave it alone. I'm building something incredible, and as soon as it's done, I'll just hand it to you, and then I'll just show you how to use it. I'm like, oh, cool. So now a lot of it is impacted by my brother, yeah.
You mentioned executing fast a lot.
Yeah.
I would love to know what goes in your mind. So from idea to execution, because I know for me, when I have an idea, I need to plan it properly. But then sometimes I think that planning takes a bit too long.
Yes.
And then that's something I learned over time, that it doesn't have to be perfect, but once you start doing it, you'll fill out the leaks or you'll fill out the holes, and then you can, like you say, you have to break things.
Yes.
So that's something I've learned over time, but I'd love to know in your mind what happens from idea to execution.
Do you know, that's a great question, bro. So Kareem is our head of operations at Freshly Grounded, right? And Kareem is the opposite of me. So he's planner, he's careful, he's good with money, everything that I'm not, right? And he said to me the other day, he goes, does your brain move faster than your mouth? Like, because I speak so fast. And I was like, bro, like 10x faster. And he's like, I just can't like understand it. But he's like, we've like balanced each other out really well. Okay, so you've asked a great question. I think like we should actually like go into this a little bit. The whole planning thing and executing thing. I think that in terms of like how fast do I go from idea to execution?
Okay, let's put an idea in your head. What idea do you have?
Okay, so live events is a perfect example.
Okay.
Right? So at the time we done the live events, my idea was, can we do a live show in the West End? Right? I've not seen it be done in the Muslim live show, but my dream as a child was to perform in London's West End, in like, you know, the classic theatres, like, you know, like for example, the Aldwych Theatre. Aldwych Theatre is known, you know, you go to London, it's one of the big theatres you see. You know, these kind of theatres do like Lion King and you know, whatever. Okay, cool. Idea. Live show. Now I have to give you some historical context, otherwise it's just not going to make sense. The historical context is that it is how my parents raised us, which I think has made a massive difference. Both my parents, my mum and my dad, raised us to basically accept the idea that anything is possible. You know, there's no limitations. That's really important historical context, and I'll leave that there. So then I have this idea for West End. Well, okay, how do they have a hire us page on their website? Okay, go to Aldwych Theatre. Oh yeah, contact us. Oh, here's the email for hiring the venue. Email the venue. Hey, we want to hire. What dates do you have available? Hey, like we have these dates available next year. Cool. We want to go with this date. Okay. How does it work? Like, what are the costs? You pay 50% up front, blah, blah. And before you know, you're in it. But you know what most people do? They just look at something like the Aldwych Theatre and they'll think, well, like, you know, they're doing Lion King, for example. Like, they're not going to have time for us. They're not going to have this, or it's going to be too expensive and things like that. Well, you start to realize that those things aren't true. For example, with those guys, it was like you pay 50% deposit and then the other 50% they take from ticket sales. So actually, we only paid 50% in theory. Like, that's how I look at it. Like, that's my maths, right?
That sounds like girl math.
Yeah, exactly. It's like very bad math, right? But it's funny because in our marriage, in my marriage with my wife, we're like complete opposites in that sense in maths, because my wife actually has a maths degree, so she's like very good with numbers and stuff, and I'm like the opposite. I got an E in economics in my in A levels.
Oh, so did I.
Did you?
Oh wait, I don't think my dad knows that.
No, he does. So bro, it's like, don't add these blockers and these frictions where it's like, okay, well, how do you do it? It's like, well, how do you do a podcast? Well, do you have an iPhone, a smartphone? Most people do. Well, that smartphone has a microphone, it has a camera. Like, some of the biggest content engines in the world are like, they're not the greatest quality or in the best studios, right? So I think from idea to execution, if execution is your priority, then it's like, okay, how do I take the next step, and look at it all in phases of next steps. So what's the very next thing I need to do? I need to call this theatre. And then what happens is when you execute the like you said, the collateral damage, more often than not, the first thing that falls off the side is quality. So it's like, okay, execute fast, but now my quality is not good at all. Well, what you do is when you execute fast, you start to gain a build up of like stamina, or the word I'm looking for is like you get used to it basically, right? And so so you could start kind of almost automating. Execution just becomes normal for you. And so then what you can do is you can slowly start raising the bar of quality. And so that's how we did it. So we were like, okay, like we'll execute fast, but we have a bare minimum of quality, and that bare minimum is quite high, I suppose, to the standard. And so now we can execute fast, but still have a decent quality. But even now, like we have this like cameraman that we use, Shayan, for our live events. Shayan's incredible. I'm sure. Do you know Shayan? He's like known in the scene now. I'm sure. You must have Shayan. Shayan's, everyone knows Shayan. If I like show some of his work, he's the guy who films like Mishari and Khabib and these guys.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
incredible videographer. And so Shayan, like even the other day, bro, we've got like cinema line cameras now in Fashion Grand Office and stuff. Like, put out content, great. I'm like so proud of it. Put it out. Shayan will message me like, bro, like, why are you shooting on 50 frames? Which, rather, I'm like, how do you even know that? Because like, it doesn't say it. And so for us, that bar of quality is still, for the layman, it's really high quality content that we're putting out. But for someone who specializes, like Shayan, he's like, bro, like your settings on your camera are all wrong. That's a price we're willing to pay. We're willing for the Shayans of this world to say your content can be better. And we also want to eventually improve that. We want to get better, you know, videographers or whatever who can you can improve that for us, but we're not going to let that stop us from executing, because 99% of the people will look at that quality and be like, whoa, that is sick. That's like 4K, it's amazing. And they're not going to say your frame rate is wrong. However, Shayan's opinion is valid, and we do want to get to a point where that bar gets raised to that level eventually.
So it's not, basically when you're executing fast, it's not going to be perfect straight away.
That's correct.
But then if you go back to your live show, now you've committed 50% for the theatre.
Yeah.
Is there any point in you that thinks, you know what, it might not work, or is any doubt? Because then when that doubt comes in, that's when you slow down.
Yeah. Zero doubt. Absolutely zero doubt. Like, I think that's like a big piece of the thing. Like,
and does that go back to your historical context of your parents saying nothing's impossible?
Oh, definitely. Definitely, yeah. Yeah, my parents, like, 100%. Well, first of all, seeing you grow up, like, my dad just never quit, bro. He's a human, and which means that there's going to be ups and downs. And, bro, he's had high highs and low lows. He never quit. He never gave up. Never. It was not an option. And to this day, I'll tell you the story about how I told both my parents that I am leaving Tartil, right? So I'm head of marketing in this AI company, tech, like best industry to be in right now. I've got 3 kids. You know, we're living in Dubai, which is pretty much everything's privatized, right? So you're paying when you go to the hospital. A doctor's appointment costs you money. So there's all that context. I ring my dad. I'm like, Dad, I think it's time. Like, I'm thinking about leaving my job and like going all in on my stuff. And at that point, I didn't call him because I wanted his permission. Because I'm a 31-year-old man. It was more like,
it's a blessing, isn't it?
I think like I've got this. As I've gotten older, my relationship with my dad has changed. Where it's like I could just talk to him, and I enjoy talking to him, and I wanted to talk to him. So I rang him on the call. I was like, I think I'm going to leave. His response, knowing all that context, I think the standard response of a dad is like, "Are you insane? You got great salary. You're able to have your kids in school, and this is like, do not do anything erratic." I think that's a standard response and also a pretty valid response. My dad's response was, listen, if you're burnt out, if you feel like this is the right decision right now, and, you know, it's starting to cause you some stress and things like that, just know that we can figure everything out. He doesn't mean that from an angle of like, oh, I'm just going to like throw money at you, because like, you know, we're all in our own situations. But he's like, we'll figure it out. And if that means we have to figure it out together, we'll figure it out together. But it's figure outable. That's the point. You'll figure it out. You know how reassuring that is, bro, to hear from the person who, you know, is one of the most important people in your life, to go, you'll figure it out. Don't worry. If that's the decision you want to make it. Everything will be figured out. And then that was his response. And my mom's response was fairly similar. She was like, look, if you've made this decision and that's what you want to do, then you don't have to sit there telling everyone about it and getting everyone's opinions. You know, do it. You know, as long as you're on board, your wife's on board, that's what my mom said, then do it. So I think like that shows you, it gives you a window into what my parents are like. They're like, look, anything's possible. When my dad married off his daughters, his thing is like, he doesn't put a massive importance on the income of the man, right? Because he said in marriage meetings, he's like, money comes and goes, Qadr of Allah, right? Like, I've seen individuals have money and the next day not have money. He's experienced that himself. And so, you know, you can't really make decisions based off of that. And so he doesn't make his decisions based off of that. So, you know, when he's like telling me, giving me that right. So anyway, that is where the anything is possible, I think, thing comes from. And also my brother is like very like, why not individual? Oh, you can't do this, why not? I'm much more like, oh, you can't really do that. That's not really according to the rules. He's like, why not? So that helps having someone like that around.
It's quite interesting because one thing my dad's always taught me growing up is never be afraid to make mistakes.
Incredible.
And I think that's stuck with me all the time. That's why I asked you the question about mistakes.
That's incredible.
And now I do something similar. If at work, so to give you a bit of context now, is we have a property estate agency, and my dad's in the background, but he's the one who initially started it. So if I want to try anything new, I'd always say to him, I said, this is what I'm planning. And he will never say, no, don't do it. It's always like, yeah, go for it. So he's following that. Even if that mistake costs, like you do at the deal, sometimes it happens because that's part and parcel of life. He still lets me just get on with it. And I think that's played a massive part in being able to try to break barriers. Because even the other day, like I got invited to Parliament. It was so random.
Wow.
And I sent a message that I don't even understand. It was just full of long words, and I'm not an English kind of person. I said, I don't understand why. But I said, there's an invitation there. Should I go? He goes, yeah, just do it. There's nothing's gonna go wrong. I might miss a day at work, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You know, on that, I think a lot of people are stuck in a situation they don't want to be in because they're fearful of what's on the other side. But also, it's that cliche of someone saying, you know, what if I fall? And the response being, well, what if you fly? Right? Like, that I cannot be satisfied knowing that I could potentially fly if I make that decision. I just can't be satisfied knowing that that could be on the other side. And so I really am always so proud of people when they make like big life decisions like that. I'm like, wow, like congratulations. There's someone the other day, I don't know if it was like a brother-in-law or someone younger than me. And they said something like, I don't know, like I've left my job or I've got myself out of this particular situation or whatever. And first thing I said to him was, man, congratulations. Because you've done something that's like scary. You know what I mean? Like no one knows what the results will be. You got to work hard, yes, but the fact that you did it, like we don't congratulate people enough when they do things like that. We're quick to be like, oh no, like what's gonna happen? But it's like, man, why don't you like congratulate that person? Like they've just like believed in themselves. And the scariest and the most horrible feeling is being stuck in a trap where you feel like there's no way out. Dude, like that's why people commit suicide, because they feel like there's no way out.
yeah,
Right? They're like in this trap. And then sometimes like if you've ever known anybody that's like even had thoughts or attempted it, which, you know, I have, and I'm sure, and as in not that I've attempted it, but I've known people who have had those thoughts and attempted it and stuff like that. When you speak to those individuals, in my experience of speaking to those individuals, it's been, I can't get out of this situation that I'm in. It's impossible. And you look at it zoomed out from the outside, you're like, dude, that's so get outable, right? But when you're in it, you feel like you can't. And so that's, I think, the saddest thing is when you're trapped. It's like that diagram of this, you draw a circle on a piece of paper and the ant is in that diagram and the ant feels like it can only be in that circle, not knowing that it can just like fall out.
But then a lot of that goes down to the people you surround yourself with as well.
Yeah.
And also, I think a lot of it's just down to mindset. And if you have people who you're around who are constantly saying, but what if you fall? Rather than someone saying, what if you fly? What's the worst that's going to happen? Like some people, for example, they want to change jobs, but it's like, I don't want to apply just in case I don't get it. But it's like, sometimes, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're just going to say no.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't hurt. It might hurt, but it's not painstaking. And I think that mindset is detrimental for us as Muslims generally. But then if you flip it, what if you can fly? Now, if every single person thought that, imagine what the Muslims can be and the Muslim content creator. Imagine like you have 10 other freshly grounded styles and whatever in different countries and everyone's like, what if we can fly? And everyone flies.
Yeah. Bro, incredible. We absolutely nuts. And I think we're seeing that now, by the way. I think we're past the thing of, you know, even in content now, I think we're going from a shift of, I think like 10 years ago, there was the content was like, the category of content that was popular was inspiration and motivation. You know, goal cast, you know, people saying these kind of things like, what if you could fly and things like that. The category of content I think that's now we're moving towards is less inspiration and motivation, because I think people now understand the mindset. So that's great. We won that battle. People have now unlocked their mind. And now I think this type of content is value. Like physically show me how you do the thing. Right? Don't inspire me now. I get it. I'm inspired. How? You know, with all this technology going back, can you show me? I think that's why my brother's doing so well, by the way, on Unpack, because it's like, he's going, hey guys, you know you can do this and this. Here's how I've done it. And he'll literally show which button to press. I think that's like where we're going now in terms of content. So I think if anyone is right now trying to figure out like how to do content, I would recommend them like, what is it that you're great at and you know how to do really well, and teach people exactly how to do it.
Basically a step-by-step method.
Yeah.
But then that's always worked in terms of like lead gen. Like if 5-step checklist to this, people clicking and download, that's always worked.
Yeah.
But in content creation, it's not been there as in video content creation. It's not been there as much.
That's right.
Your role at Freshly Grounded has probably considerably changed
Yes.
because obviously now you've got investment, and now you have to make it profitable.
That's correct.
And you've got salaries to pay and all sorts. So rather than just focusing on content creation, what are the other things you now focus on at Freshly Grounded?
Me personally, I'm so you're right in thinking that like the roles like kind of change over time, and you have to have a mature conversation and say like, what is it that I'm good at and what is it that I'm bad at, and that's why you'll often hear me speaking about Kareem, because he really is like everything that I'm bad at is what he's great at. And so what we've kind of done is like split my role up, where I'm head of creative stuff like the live event. That's like what I love, building momentum, and creating and executing those kind of things, managing the creative team, and then what Kareem is focused on is more so on the business operations. My role is a little bit hybrid, as you'd imagine, as like kind of like the guy at like who's running the company. So I do still have a lot of the business. Like I'm like, I suppose like I'm probably still 60-40, right? Where like 60% of it's still on the business. And part of that is because when you're having like partnership calls with businesses and things like that, they know you, right? And so you want to kind of show them that you're all in, and you want to have those conversations and stuff like that. So a lot of the partnership calls, I'm on those partnership calls. I've also learned a lot about business over the last kind of 10 years with that. But I am more focused on creative.
Okay. I thought you'd be a lot more hands-on in business, but then it's exactly what you said. You've had a conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
We're going to play a game now.
Okay.
Not a Freshly Grounded one.
No worries.
It's called Put Your Pound Where Your Mouth Is.
Put your pound where your mouth is, okay.
Have
you played this regularly with the guests?
We've played it 4 times. So
Okay.
recently we started...
Is that a leaderboard?
Yeah, it's a Top Gear style
Oh.
leaderboard.
Wow.
So it's out of 21 points.
Okay. This is so exciting. I'm scared.
I'm scared now.
Okay. So Nisba investing is
18 points.
the most is the top of the leaderboard.
Yep. But you two that was the last episode we released, was 14 points. And Mohammed Shoaib, who was our parenting expert, he's 9 points.
I feel like I'm going to do really bad because is it about money?
No, it's not about money.
Okay, fine.
Your one's going to be about marketing and Muslim marketing.
Oh no.
So we're testing you.
And I just did that spiel about I feel like I can handle a conversation. All right.
It's 7 questions.
Okay.
Question 1 has 1 point. It goes all the way
7.
to question 7. It has 7 points. Don't worry, if it's 0 out of 7, we'll just edit it out.
No, it's fine.
It's not a live show.
Yeah. All right, it's good.
Question 1. Which of the following platforms has the highest organic reach per follower in 2024?
Reach per follower.
Yeah, so it's multiple choice.
Yep.
So Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, or Twitter, or now known as X. So which of the following platforms
So I would have
has the
said
highest
TikTok,
organic reach?
but per follower is throwing me off because TikTok does a lot of reach outside of followers. But I'm going to say TikTok.
TikTok's right.
Okay.
That's 1 point.
Hold on. But how has somebody got 18 points?
It's out of 20. Each question. So question 1 has 1, question 2 has 2, and goes up to question 7 has 7.
Nice.
So I think it's out of 21.
This is cool, man.
It gets harder and you get more points.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What
I'm
is-
happy that at least I'm not on 0 now.
What is the average ROI marketers report for the long form video content? So is it A, 2.3x, B, 3.8x, C, 4.8x, or D, 6.2x? This is according to HubSpot.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the lowest number there. Is that wrong?
Lowest is 2.3, the answer is 4.8.
Okay.
According to a global Muslim youth report, what percentage of Gen Z Muslims say they want to be content creators or digital entrepreneurs?
Oh, this is going to be high.
You've got A, 34%, B, 48%, C, 58%, or D, 67%. This is according to the global Muslim youth survey, Dinar Standard.
I'm going to say, I think generally among Gen Z would be really high, but with the fact that it's Muslim Gen Z, potentially there's like more like conservatism, but I'm still going to go the highest at 68%? 67%?
Correct.
Okay.
Not bad. You're doing quite good.
Yeah.
You should introduce this on your live show, actually.
Yeah, we actually do have a game segment, actually.
Which percentage of podcast listeners say they're more likely to purchase from a brand they hear mentioned on a podcast? You got A 23%, B 41%, C 57%, or D 63%.
B.
B you said
41%.
41. The answer is D 63%.
Okay,
That's quite interesting.
that is interesting. Yeah.
Which country? Oh, you should know this. Which country hosted the 2025 Global Muslim Content Summit? I'm never going to give you the
Malaysia.
Malaysia. Correct. The other options were Qatar, Turkey, and UAE.
Nice.
You went there, right?
I was a speaker on both days. Yeah.
What percentage of UK Muslims say they do not follow any Muslim content creators regularly? That's A 15%, B 22%, C 34%, or D 47%. So what percentage of UK Muslims say they do not follow any Muslim content creators? This is like market research.
Go
For
with
us.
C.
Correct. How many points has Faisal so far?
Calculated. He only got one wrong.
Okay.
And he got question 2 wrong. That means if you get this right, you're top of the leaderboard.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. And then is this the last question?
This is the last question.
Oh my gosh, this is serious,
There's
guys.
12 points.
Oh no.
That's it.
He's on 12 points.
Oh man, I really want to get this right. I'm not even competitive. I'm the least competitive person you ever meet, but I'm feeling competitive at the moment.
You're about to top the leaderboard.
Yeah, this is gonna be. It's gonna be like these questions are so like unless you know it's guessing. Unless you literally read the report, it's like 20%, 33%. All right, go on.
This will be quite interesting to you,
Okay.
though. By 2025,
Okay.
what is the projected value?
Oh, I have no idea.
This is maths as well. Of the global Islamic media and recreation economy.
Okay.
So you got A 220 million, B 220 billion dollars, B is 275 billion dollars, C is 295 billion dollars, or D is 340 billion dollars.
It's literally like an absolute guess.
Should we cheat and put it on top?
Don't know what that means. Oh, I'm gonna go with C.
Correct.
Yay!
$295 billion.
$295 billion. Wow. Man, you know what I read like a few years ago was the Muslim Pound Report. Who was that by?
MCB.
MCB. That was quite a cool insight. That was like ahead of its time, wasn't it?
I think they released in 2013, and I think they were more talking about consumer spending.
They were, yeah. That's right.
But I think
I'm happy with that, man.
top of the leaderboard.
Top of the leaderboard.
We got a celeb top of the leaderboard.
Wow, look at that. And you guys spelled my name 100% correctly,
It's
which is really rare.
19 points.
You spelled it correctly. My one, anyway.
That's quite good. It's probably plastered everywhere though, your name.
But that's what annoys me. Because it's so difficult to offend me. I just do not get, and it doesn't really offend me, but I'm like, dude, like, it's so easy to find the spelling. Like, you literally just have to like go on my Instagram or something to find out how to spell the
I
name.
think we would have gone on your LinkedIn. Yeah. We copied off your
I
LinkedIn.
appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. That's love.
You just started using LinkedIn properly recently, right?
Well, bro, I'm a businessman now. I'm going
It's
to
a
for
game changer,
scalable
innit?
business. Oh,
Yeah.
what? But I didn't know.
Who?
Who put me on? So I always had LinkedIn profiles, so I had a lot of connections.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know how to use it. And then when I was raising investment, private equity for Freshly Grounded, someone was like, you should use LinkedIn, maybe Kaya.
Okay.
And man, then not only did I use it, but I was like, okay, like let me understand how to use it. And what I realized that people on LinkedIn, they want, okay, yes, it's, correct me if I'm wrong because I'm a newbie with LinkedIn, but like I've seen Alhamdulillah you're active. What people are used to, no, what people, by default, the platform obviously is for people sharing work and professional and business related updates, right? Whether it's you're in your job, whether you're like doing something cool in your company, whether you've done something new in your career. So that's like step one. But then what the platform seems like it's desperate for is like authenticity and emotion.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've tried to mix. I've tried to be like, okay, so it's very clear if you look at my posts, it's like, okay, like, hey guys, like we're looking for investment. Like, so I'm trying to like generate, people who are interested in, being a part of our investing team. That's like the goal of the post, which Alhamdulillah has been really effective. In fact, like the majority of our investors, I think, have come from LinkedIn. But it's like, okay, you can't just be like, hey guys, we're raising money. I would have to be like, then you have to bring the emotion. And so then I'll like post a picture of like me with the keys or me like in a really like impactful moment. I'd be like, hey guys, like here's the story of like what's happened and why it meant so much. And by the way, if you're down with this mission, we are raising investment as well. So I don't know, man. I'm just like, also that's not in groundbreaking. Anyone who knows LinkedIn, that's like the least groundbreaking thing I've said. But
But it goes back to, if you strip everything back to marketing,
Yeah.
it goes back to the number one key thing, storytelling.
Yeah.
You have to tell a story. Everyone does it.
Yes.
All brands do it.
Yes.
You have a story, Freshly Grounded do it.
Yeah,
Adidas have a story,
yeah.
Nike have a story. So
What's your favorite marketing story? Or just favorite story in, not marketing. What's your favorite like businessy story?
probably McDonald's. It's
Okay.
the boycott, obviously we boycott
Yeah,
them,
yeah.
but probably McDonald's, just the way they built their whole business on real estate when everyone thinks it's a food chain, which
Yeah.
it is,
Yeah.
but it's all in real estate, which
That
means
is
their
impressive,
business
yeah.
holds the value. And I think I've watched the movie 2 or 3 times. now.
Founder.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like a, yeah. That's a really good story actually.
But my most viral post on LinkedIn was not even about business.
What was it about?
It was when I went to Palestine and got evacuated. We had to get evacuated.
Really?
And it was just recent. We had to get evacuated. So I just done it in a normal storytelling way, hook first, then the content. There's no call to action. I should have done the podcast as a call to action, but I didn't. Yeah, we had to get evacuated from Palestine, went to Jordan because that's when Iran and Israel were bombing each other.
Okay.
And then somehow managed to find ourselves in Makkah, Medina, and then flew back. Wow. But that was good.
Man. You know, I had a friend recently who was in Palestine, and he said that. So he also got like, detained because he was basically on FaceTime to his family. They were like no videoing, and he was like just filming. Filming Al-Aqsa. Anyway, they decided to be difficult with him and detained him, and just like typical, bro. Just you know, I even said, oh, you know, they're pointing to the flag and said, what's the name of this country, and just all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And when he came back, I said to him like, you know, what's your takeaway? And he said, my takeaway is we need to go more.
Yeah, that was exactly my takeaway.
Yeah, because he was like, they don't want people there because then it'll be easier for them to try and infiltrate and stuff. But he was like, the more we go visit, the more tourists that come visit Al-Aqsa, that's a nuisance for them. And so I was just like, wow, man, you just going for like difficult period there. And you're like, right, that's just showing me we need to go more because they don't like it.
I said the same thing because when I come back and I was fortunate enough that we also went to Makkah and Medina. So I saw firsthand that, and this was just after Hajj. So Makkah's full, as it always is. Medina's full, as it always is. Masjid Aqsa, 3 safs full. So 3 rows were, that's it. The rest of the masjid was empty. So it's like, you know, if we took 10% of the people from going Makkah, Medina, people go every year and all sorts, rather than going there and understand the significance of it, I think the need of the ummah is to go to Aqsa and then come back and tell your stories, but in a way that doesn't, I forgot the word, I don't know what you did earlier, but doesn't
Put people off. Yeah.
Deter, that's the word I was looking for. Doesn't put people off, and because sometimes it can be intimidating, the idea of, because they're coming on with guns, they come on the bus, they go through the checkpoints, there's 4 or 5 of them at the gate of Masjid Al-Aqsa. So if you look at it like that, yes, it's intimidating, but we got through most of the time. We got detained for 4 hours, but we got through. So it goes back to the mindset thing of what you were saying earlier about what if you fly?
Yeah.
So some people said don't go, but what if you get in and what if we really enjoy it, which we did.
My mother-in-law and father-in-law went, man, and they just like, loved it, bro.
It's actually, I forgot to tell Kaya because we talk about coffee beans on Instagram.
Okay.
We bought Palestinian coffee beans and they were.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they were Palestinian, but we bought it from one of the local shop.
Yeah.
It was sick.
Wow. Yeah, Kaya's big on coffee, bro. Kaya's big on coffee.
He's the one who put me on Camel Step, maybe.
Maybe. That sounds like Kaya, yeah. That sounds like. Right now, he's just put us on this new coffee beans in the office that are, I can't remember the name of them, but they're like a Brazilian blends, to be honest, are my favorite. Because Brazilian blend has a little bit of a chocolatey tone. And so he put us on this very specific Brazilian blend of coffee beans. I don't think we could go to anything else right now. just incredible.
I want to talk to you about content,
Okay,
Muslim content.
Yeah.
So you went to the Global Muslim Content Summit.
that's correct.
The content creation space is evolving massively, and we're seeing like Mr. Beast and Nico, and I don't even know most of them who've got millions and millions of subs. Muslim content creation is still a long, long way behind. How do we bridge that gap, and why have we not bridged that gap?
I think we are in a. So first of all, things like GMC are helpful because what GMC was a conference where Muslim content creators came together to share their secrets. It wasn't inspiration. It wasn't motivation. It wasn't a marketing ploy. It was value. It was, here's how to light up your podcast set. You need these lights. This light needs to be here. This light needs to be, that's value, bro. It was, here's how to create a story in a reel. Here's the correct amount. It was granular, bro. Like the hook needs to be here. This is how traditional media is. This is how social media is. Like it was, that's so first of all, that helps. And it was all with a baseline agreement that Muslims need to control the narrative more, right? So that's one thing. So that's good. The second thing is that I would argue that, yes, we are still behind. You're 100% right in that reflection. But also we are getting there now. As in, we've gone past the thing of trying to convince people to create content or whatever.
Yeah. And we've got people like Sunnah guy as well. Who didn't
Yeah,
incredibly
like
well.
the mainstream, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what's needed is two things. I think one thing that's needed is that we need to ensure that we unequivocally stay posted to our morals and ethics, because then we have Allah by our side. We have Barakah on our side, right? We do not waver on those things. Secondly, we need to study it. We have, like anything, it's no longer anything that starts has a period where you can kind of just get first movers advantage. We kind of had that with Freshly Grounded, right? Like sometimes like we're just riding off the coattails of our first movers advantage, especially the last 3 years when we were when it, quote unquote was saying it was bleeding. The reason we were still actually, we hit our 100,000 subscriber milestone in that period. We had some of our biggest guests in that period. We had Asif Hakim, who like nobody was able to get on the podcast in that period. So we still had like big wins in that period, but I do believe that we were able to do those things because we were riding on the coattails of the fact that we had first movers advantage.
But also people have grown up with you. So people who started watching you when you were in your 20s have probably a very similar life journey to you.
I believe so, yes.
Got married, business, promoted in their roles, kids, everything. And you talk about them things.
That's right, yeah, that's right. So I would say, so like in any industry, you do have a first mover's advantage when you can kind of just be present, and that is enough. In content, we're no longer in that situation. In content now, we're in a situation where it actually has to be studied. So you actually have to look at, okay, so we were doing this with a Mr. Beast video the other day in the office, right? We were looking at a Mr. Beast video and it was like, in this video, he was doing like a man wrestling like a tightrope thing against a lion. There was a man chasing a cheetah. There was a wrestler wrestling a bear. But so all basically it was like humans versus animals, like the best human at that thing versus an animal that has that strength, right? So the world's strongest man, tug of war versus a lion, right? It was all actually legit as well, it wasn't AI or anything, right? So I was showing this video to the boys in the office and I pressed play, and basically what you saw in the video was, I pressed play and then what you saw is the world's strongest man versus the lion.
That's the first thing.
No, the first thing you saw, sorry, was a preview of everything that you're going to see in the video. You got to see a bit of the cheetah racing the man. You got to see a bit of the bear. You got to see all that kind of stuff. So you had a full understanding of everything you're going to see in the video. Then you saw him introduce the fact that he's got the world's strongest man with him. A bit of an intro on the world's strongest man. Then you saw the entirety of the wrestle between the world's strongest man and the lion. Then you saw, like, it was even really tense, and then the world's strongest man won and he celebrated, and then I paused it and we looked at the time, bro, and it had been 60 seconds.
Oh, so all of that,
all of what I just explained, and it had been 1 minute. I paused it and I said to the boys, look at the time. That's like the size of an Instagram reel, and we saw all of that, bro. We finished watching the World's Strongest. We finished seeing a complete preview of the whole video. We finished having a complete introduction to the World's Strongest Man, and we finished watching the World's Strongest Man versus the Lion, and it was been 1 minute, and you couldn't take your eyes off the screen.
How long was the video in total?
The video in total, I can't remember. It was a long video, 16 minutes. Okay. But the other thing is, I said to the boys, I said, if we manage to secure the World's Strongest Man, we would milk that video. We were like, guys, we've got the World's Strongest Man, and he's about to do tug of war with a lion, and that's a 12-minute video. He got that bit just out of the way in 60 seconds. And so that's studying the game, man. That's going, okay, like how much... And by the way, there's a really, really sinister side to this. Like, you're getting people to not switch off the screen. And so I think as Muslims, we have to have the balance of like, we do need to study it. We do need to use this because, you know, the enemies of Islam are using this to push our children away from the deen, bro.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we do have to know it at least. We do have to study it at least. We do have to understand it at least. Even if we think it's immoral to create content that is creating that much dopamine, because it's also the reality of the world. So we have to put those things away and then study. I think we have to study it. I think that's like the thing that's going to help us right now with content creation.
Yeah, you do have to study it. But if I give an example in the finance space, you have to study the banks and the interest and the model behind it to then create Islamic finance products, which go against all of that as well.
Sure.
Because we use the Western banking model.
Sure.
It's just the way it is. So you have to study the bad if you want to create something good, which is
I suppose if you're in that niche. Yeah.
If you're in that niche. So if you have to create the content that keeps you glued onto the screen.
Yeah, makes sense.
Going back to the GMC,
Yes.
what was your like key takeaway?
My key takeaway was, for me, my personal experience was a little bit different because for me, I don't know what my key takeaway was of the actual event. For me, where I got a lot of value was actually sitting in on the talks. I actually learned a lot. And that was a humbling experience as well, because you can quite easily go, oh, well, I've been over 10 years in this space. You know, I know what there is to know about content creation. I've just got to execute now. And I was learning things like, I was like, actually, do you know what? We don't give enough attention to this. Or we do this thing wrong. One of the guys who was giving a talk was basically explaining how, you know, with content, you work backwards. You actually think of the title and then what the thumbnail is going to look like, and then you create the content around that. Whereas most people create content by creating the content, and then they say, what should we title that episode? What should we create as a thumbnail? I do it the latter, which is actually not how the most successful people do it. And so, you know, I learned that. So I learned a lot of granular things. My key takeaway from the actual, I don't know what my key takeaway is from a zoomed out lens. I'm not sure.
We try and do like a balance in the middle. So we kind of have certain angles with the title thumbnail, but then depending on the content, because we can go down a rabbit hole or we can go off on a tangent, then we restructure it and go around and say, okay, this is what the title should be.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
But I was watching a video recently. Actually, Sohaib sent it to me, Muslim founder. You went on his podcast. He's in Dubai, Sohaib Ashraf.
Yeah. Scottish guy.
Scottish.
Cool guy.
I should have said Scottish.
Yeah,
guy,
you should have said that, yeah.
Strong Scottish accent.
Yeah. So he's great, yeah.
Actually, what happened is one of our videos, we did it with Dr. Muhammad Mustafa, the Gaza doctor, and it just didn't have a lift off at all. It was just like stuck. So I sent a message Sohaib, and this goes like back to who was a Muslim pound and everything. I messaged him and I said,
Sohaib, by the way, is obsessed with thumbnails.
Yeah, so I messaged him. I said, I don't know if you heard of Muslim Money Talk, Arib.
No.
So he's based here. So we all had a similar problem. Some of our videos weren't just lifting off, and he had one with Muhammad Faris, which just like shot up, and he put a LinkedIn post out. Said this is how we did it. So I dropped him a WhatsApp and said, so hey, this is a problem we're having. He sent me an 8-minute voice note saying this is what you need to do step by step. And then we actually applied that to our last video, which has had quite a good trajectory. And it goes back to thumbnails, packaging, he said, thumbnails and titles.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the original point I was making.
No, that was the...
But yeah,
title
and thumbnails. And I think it goes a lot of the Muslim content creators have to learn that side as well.
Definitely.
Which might be boring to some.
Definitely.
But for me, I actually really like it because it's a lot about planning and
Yeah, I'm the opposite to you. I'm just like, let's just execute. But now that we've got a team, we're quite blessed. We had a meeting about this in the office the other day about this exact concept, like the thumbnails and titles thing. And so like they work on that, which is useful. Because I don't do that. I'm like, I named our last episode like Chinwag and Natter. It's like, I don't care. Just like get the content out.
Well, then do you not? Oh, sorry, the video. Sorry, I watched a YouTube video which then said you should. So if you put Chinwag and Natter, put that in YouTube, see what the view counts are. So if it's got low view counts, then it's probably not best putting that title out.
Yeah.
Whereas if you put, I don't know, how to make £1 million tomorrow, that might be high up.
Exactly.
So I think that's something that we started to do recently as well.
Yeah.
So that's some value for the people who are creating content.
Yeah.
What do you think was missing in this GMC summit as Muslim content creators that you feel is needed in the next one?
There was something, and it was money. It was a discussion around money. I have
Money in what sense? As in income?
well, no. I think there's a really big gap, which I actually want to fill in content, but I'm not equipped to do it. And so I either have to like hire someone who like can like manage this project under Freshly Grounded or something. But I think there's a really big gap in personal finance in the Muslim world. There's a lot of finance staff and content and products around investing, making more money. In some capacities, I would guess spending money, not really, but like a lot of it is like about investing and making money, right?
Yeah.
But okay, what is one thing that every single person on this planet has to deal with until they die? They have to deal with money, right? Regardless of the scale. And so I think Dave Ramsey's done an incredible job at this, and he's a personal finance personal finance creator. He's in his 60s now. He's been bankrupt twice, and he's a Christian. And so actually a lot of his values and morals align with us as Muslims when it comes to money. Don't get into debt. Debt's not good. Be honest with your money and all those kinds of stuff, right? Personal finance, what I mean by that is that everybody has a relationship with money. So, but a lot of us are not great with money, bro. Like, we're normal humans and we get attracted to the dunya. We get attracted to like that new pair of trainers and stuff like that. But why is there no one who has built a framework for us to say, look, build an emergency fund, have 3 to 6 months savings in case like you lose your job. Here's how to do it. Pay off your interest. If you have interest-based debts, pay them off first because that's impermissible. Like it's fine, make Tawbah and try and pay them off. Or pay off your smallest debt first because then you get in psychologically you get in a habit of paying off debts. Here's how to manage your income. Your rent should not cost more than X amount of your income. Your car payment shouldn't cost more than X amount of your income. If you have to borrow, here's the rules of borrowing and try and avoid it as much as you can. But if you are in personal debt, even if it's a halal one, like an interest-free one to your friend, here's how to pay off. And just this entire framework that's adaptable. Because what Dave Ramsey's been able to do is he's been able to create a framework that is useful if you're on $30,000 a year salary or $300,000 a year salary. And what it allows people to, and by the way, here's the truth about personal finance. And this is his words, not mine. He knows he goes, I know individuals who have $30,000 a year salary, and I know individuals who have $300,000 a year salary. And the person who has $30,000 a year is richer than the person who has $300,000 a year because of their habits, their spending habits, their saving, they have more savings. I personally know this, bro. I know individuals who are on £2,000 a month salary and they've got 100 grand in the bank versus people who are on £10,000 a month and they're living month to month. So, by the way, personal finance is an issue that is never going to go away. It's a personality thing, I think. It's an emotion thing. It's not a maths thing. And everybody has a relationship with money. Why do we not have in the Muslim space? And why do I say Muslim space? Because unfortunately, to an extent, Dave Ramsey doesn't cut it. Because eventually, when you get past the here's how to get out of debt, here's how to save money thing, he will start going into, well, here's how to buy a house on a 15-year mortgage or whatever, right? As Muslims, we have a very intricate and intimate relationship with money. We can't do this, we can do this, we can't do this, we can't. We need someone who's going to be like, all right, here's some baseline rules that we all agree on. So based on the fact that we don't do interest, you're not even going to discuss or other things like interest is not just the only thing that's like mentioned when it comes to money. It's also stuff like we can't buy haram products that are just like not permissible for us. So talking about managing them and stuff like that. So what did you ask?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
What's missing in our
Yeah. So I'm really passionate about that. And I'm passionate about that because, I myself have a relationship with money. Like, I wish that I had been better at saving or more disciplined with spending or the opposite, right? So anyway, at the GMC, and I mentioned this to one of the guys at top when we were having a discussion beforehand. I think someone needs to come on stage and go, okay, like, you guys are content creators. You're going to have to deal with money, right? You're going to get brand deals. You're going to make money in unorthodox ways, because a person who's not a creator, they might get a monthly salary. So they get, okay, I get £4,000 a month, 12 months, right? Cool. That means I'm on £48,000 a year salary. A content creator might get £30,000 one-off payment,
Not get paid for 6 months.
and then not get paid for 9 months, and they get 10 grand payment, right? So they've made actually less money than the person who's on 4 grand a month, but it feels like a lot when you get that 30k gross 30k check in your bank account. You feel like you're top of the world for a week. You think, all right, I know I need to manage that, but for now, I do want to spend 5 grand on this thing. That's a luxury. So we need someone who's going to talk to us about how to manage, spend, all that kind of stuff.
So I know a few people who are content creators, and some of them are like, okay, cool, I want to buy a house now. So when they approach me, first thing I say is, get an accountant. Before you even think about buying a house, get an accountant. I generally refer them to Nas Numbers, who you had on your podcast.
Yes, he's my manager actually.
Oh, he's your manager now? Yeah, he's really good. And because he deals with because generally content creators think, you know what, I'm doing everything for content, I can expense everything. But then an accountant comes and say no, because HMRC will say XYZ. But I think that's a different aspect. But personal finance, again, is very important.
Just date a lay Muslim man, lay Muslim woman, the lay Muslim couple.
But then it also has to be done in location, because a person can have 100 grand up north, example, and a person can have 100 grand in London. They're in different positions in terms of, do they buy a house?
No, but I believe that we can build a framework that is universal for Muslims, because I've seen Dave Ramsey do it. And America's bigger than the UK. There's people who live in Texas where it's tax-free. There's people who live in LA. There's people I do believe you can create a universal framework that's just universal rules, and you apply them to your life according to your thing, like according to your financial situation. They don't have to be intricate. You can have, the intricacy is like, then that person who does that can have a business model where he's doing personal consultancy based on that person's situation. But I do think there's a broad framework that we can apply. That framework exists in the Quran and Sunnah. It's just like someone needs to be able to put it in a thing that a lay Muslim man or woman can follow.
Sorry, my battery's low. Just a few questions before we wrap up. In 2025, how important is it for businesses to make video content now?
Oh man, lazim. They have to. Yeah, bro. Like you have to figure it out, man. You have to figure it out. I don't know, like, if that means you have to create turn-based content or podcast or what, but you have to figure out as a business video content. Yeah.
A lot of Muslim businesses don't like putting their faces on camera as well. So how do they navigate that?
There's, what do they say? There's 100 ways to skin a cat or 1,000 ways to skin a cat. Like, there's so many ways to create content. There's so many successful faceless content creators. There's so many now with AI. You have the ability to, like, let's say you don't even want to use your voice, you don't want to use your face or anything. You can create POV style content with an AI voiceover. Like, there's just no excuse. You just got to find you have to start testing.
We did that because so in our agency, we tried to make content, and I used to try and get the team to try and make content, but they were all busy. The sales team was busy in sales. So my wife was like to me, why don't you just get your sister to just take property tours? It's like as simple as that. So, we have tried it, but it's not consistent. So she's started it after Ramadan or in Ramadan. So when was that? March. Since then, and this is, I think, a lesson for all businesses. Since then, I checked a couple of days ago, we've had 6.8 million views on TikTok.
Yeah.
And we've sold one house, definitely for sure, one house through TikTok.
Yeah, it's incredible. I would be interested to figure out more ways of tracking that so you can see exactly how many houses you sell, that, like, where TikTok was a touch point.
Yeah.
But that is really interesting. That's incredible because you took action.
Yeah. But to track a touch point might be a bit difficult. But to see where the lead came in directly, that we can we do track about 80% of the time.
Like you asked them where they got in touch. Yeah.
Yeah, how they got in touch. Or my sister would just email the leads because obviously the message. And now because of that, so many leads have come in. We're working with someone to build an AI chatbot to qualify the leads, basically. Final question. What does the Muslim pound mean to you?
Well, before you explained to me the mission, it meant to me that report that I read all those years ago, because it was called
How
the
we
Muslim
spend
Pound. Yeah, about how Muslims spend money. But the truth is that I think it means Muslims, taking a little bit of effort to reinvest in other Muslims, whether it's a business and whether it's choosing the coffee shop that's 2 doors down because it's owned by a Muslim, or if it's your 18-year-old brother-in-law has a business idea and he needs a interest-free loan, or you could just sort him out with a bit of money, or it's just kind of ultimately putting your money where your mouth is. I think that's what the Muslim pound means to me, putting your money where your mouth is. And it's easier said than done. And I think previously we didn't have the best opportunity, because I'm all for people saying we invest in Muslim businesses, but then sometimes, like, if the quality of the product is not there, it's like I also do want a good quality product. So I think previously maybe it would have been a bit tougher in some worlds. And so I think it's a trust between two. It's like you have to both pull your weight. One will be willing to spend the Muslim pound, but the other has to be willing to create great products, right? But now we're in that world. We're in that world where there's great products created by Muslims. Look at Salam Cola.
Yeah.
That's one example.
Actually, we did research a couple months ago because we were trying to build a tech platform. So before we did it, we did some research. And one of the key things people are saying is that they don't trust the quality or service provided from a Muslim business.
Yeah.
And that was a massive thing. It was a thing for me as well. It's like
I can believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think for us, we have to do like a two-pronged approach, in the sense of, one is educating the need of it, which I think a lot of people now understand, that there is a need to spend, even if it's not Muslim, but at least ethical businesses. Because one thing is receiving your income in a halal manner. The second is spending it. But where it's going, for example, you go Starbucks, we know where that's going. But if you go to a Muslim-owned or just a local coffee shop, it's not going in them same places which are killing our brothers and sisters. But then also, spending it with Muslims circulates it back one way or another. Like, the worst thing that's going to happen is they'll spend on the family, which is a good thing, or they'll give in charity, which is even better thing. And then if you do it with a waqf system, then we can reinvest them funds into the community. We have data saying, for example, Freshly Grounded, their cameras are Sony, but why isn't there a Muslim-owned brand which has a camera or which develops cameras?
Yeah, so you just get bigger and bigger and bigger. I think we'll start to see it.
But it's obviously I talk about it as if it's a 150-year vision. It's something that has to be there before or long after we pass away.
Yeah, it's generational, right? Because our parents and grandparents came to the UK and they started businesses, which was the first step. Great move. Yeah, a lot of them started businesses. Is the service going to be a little bit poor? Yeah, I mean, they don't speak great English and stuff. But now we're seeing the first iteration of businesses being built by Muslims who were born and brought up and educated in the UK. So they had equal articulation, equal vision, branding, finesse, execution. And then the result of that is that we are now seeing the first iteration of great Muslim businesses that are both hardworking, from their generation, from like their parents and grandparents. They've got that kind of like history, but then also they've got the thing that they were perhaps missing, which was that articulation and stuff.
It's like Chaiwala example. They've just grown and grown massively.
Oh yeah, they've absolutely smashed it, man.
Faisal, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much,
It's been
Zaid,
an
man.
honor as well.
Likewise.
And we hope to see the growth of Freshly Grounded. We hope to see the growth of Freshly Grounded, so it's profitable and is beneficial for everyone.
Barakallah feek.
So
God bless you.
this is why I can't do live events.
Jazakallah khair. It was lovely. Assalamu alaikum.